Welcome, everyone. We will begin our meeting for the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership here in just a minute. We'll give a minute or so to let our participants join in the webinar. It is September 26, 2022 at 3 p.m. We have a full advisory group meeting today after being off for the month of August, so we could all enjoy a little bit of a holiday summer break. We still have people joining.
We do. Yep. They're still rolling in.
Okay. I'll start out then. My name's Kiki Miller. I'm a Coeur d'Alene City Council member, and I'm heading up the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership. We've been doing this for about a year and a half now, formally. All of our information is recorded and put on the rhgip.org website. So any of you who are new to this meeting, feel free to jump to that website afterwards. There's a weekly update that's very brief. And it'll get you kind of up to speed as to what we've been doing, who we are, and some of the great work that's actually occurred in a very, very short period of time. So please do remember to share that weekly update as well as the toolkit and those items with the rest of the members of your organizations, and and assure that if there's questions that they have, that they send them to us there at that info on the website there. I wanted to let you know that we have with us today, and I don't know if she was made a panelist or not, but Greta Gissel. And Greta is the new incoming director of the visioning program, CDA 2030. And I will tell you that Greta and I have been talking with Greta's board and executive group on the potential merger of some of the housing functions with an expanded and rebranded CDA 2030 to cover more of a regional aspect that has all of its implementation plans and the great action work that they've already done being stretched out regionally and incorporating the Housing and Growth Issues Partnership functions. So there's maybe some good news coming down the road with an expanded group there, and I'm going to look forward to continuing to work with all of you folks, as well as the new incoming group of some of those particular boards too. Wanted to let you know that there is another group that is revisiting the idea of doing brief videos on what the toolkit items are to post to this website. For example, rather than have to go and read about what a first right of refusal ordinance might be, or a deed restriction, or what home share is, there may be just a short video that this group had asked for quite a while back. We tabled it due to other projects, but there's a new interest in putting a short video that just has a brief explanation of what those items are, so they don't have to read and they can just click to the one they want. So that's also in play. There's two new potential discussions going on. One is a few developers have come forward, and as we've been working through what the potential solutions they can provide in this local worker housing arena, there's been a question as to, can we create some new partnerships with a subcontracted product type of building within specific development? So that's a new idea we haven't talked about here before, but I wanted to let you know there are some meetings going on in the region about that. And when that comes to fruition, I'll get a better presentation for you. The other one is talking about being able to build a portfolio for our housing for our regional teachers. This hasn't gone into a lot of discussion yet. There's a few new people in town who've been involved with programs with schools before. And so there may be an expanded subcommittee under what Jeff Fowler is working on once those discussions kind of become a little more formal. So I want to make sure that as all of you in the advisory group can share with your groups, we are will be more information that will include updates to the new subcommittees and what the priorities that the community wants for us in 2023 to focus on. So as you recall last time, they're on the website, but the number one item was preserving open space on the prairie. And number two was traffic and transportation and traffic. Number three was housing. Four was water, aquifer protection. And five was legislative action. So we will be reviewing those again. And with that, that's my segue into a report from David Callahan, who we, through the county's efforts, have succeeded in that goal number one priority, in that there is a commission for preservation of open space and land acquisition. And so, David, you have a few things to share with the group today.
The Board of County Commissioners has authorized us to engage bond counsel and municipal advisor Piper Sandler, Hoxley et al. And we are actively involved with them. It's a little premature to say much of anything else because I don't want to make presumptions at this stage, but I'm still jazzed that we've made it this far and the commissioners are in full support.
And that's on open space work. So thank you. And David, you had another question or some information presentations to the state on housing issues?
I've been invited to the governor's office. I'll fly down tomorrow and be there Wednesday to hear the NAS report on Lake Coeur d'Alene. And at that report, the staff also wanted to visit about what we are doing with the Regional Housing Task Force. And so mostly what I'll do is give them the cards that we have and say, you can find everything you need to know on the webpage.
Great. Okay, well, it'll be interesting to hear anything back next time from you on what happened with that particular visit tomorrow. So good luck on that trip.
Thank you.
So I don't have Jeff Fuller here, but as I said, there has been a little bit more discussion on the exploration of building some sort of housing portfolio for teachers in the region. So we will get you all up to speed next month on that one. The next one up is Maggie isn't here. What she did send me is a very detailed report on what the Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance has been doing. And as I read this report, I will let you know that the PDF I forwarded and it'll be posted to the website. So you'll be able to go ahead and it's a 2-pager, not really long, but you'll be able to go ahead and grab that off the website anytime right after this meeting. And I did want to preface this by saying that, it's remarkable that a year ago, the Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance didn't have any of these projects and programs in motion at all with where they were going with the future of their organization. And now they've moved into not only creating, vetting, and putting forward a community-wide goal to reserve and preserve local worker housing. They're actually have executed conversations with developers on deed restrictions and will be putting out that information on a template for those within the month. So I'm so proud of them and the work we've all done, and the advisory group here, as well as this working group, thank you sincerely for all of the support that would help us get Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance to the point where some of these toolkit items are actually being executed. So as I said in Maggie's report, their countywide goal now that their board is expanded is to reserve and preserve homes that local workers can afford to buy. And they are defining that in the document here as 60 to 130% AMI, and that they're able to accomplish that through deed restrictions, also known as affordability covenants, and that the private market with some public partnerships will drive this volume for worker housing. The local jurisdictions working with developers to approve housing developments that include deed restrictions to local workers, and managing deed restrictions, which is a new thing that PAHA is doing. They're preparing to be the third party for the management of deed restrictions for local workers so that the private market doesn't have to take on that responsibility. So that's a huge task that they're willing to expand and do. Some other strategies that PAHA is doing is community land trusts, and it's explained in this document. The private development work, which is predominantly the deed restriction process that they have, and that they are currently developing a declaration of affordability covenants with purchase option use, refinance, and resale restrictions. This is going to be a model document for establishing and making whatever deed restrictions are in place on new homes as they are built to ensure a price range that local workers can afford. So this is a phenomenal amount of work that they've moved forward. The model document will be in compliant with the Fair Housing Idaho law, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae lending requirements. It'll be drafted and completed by October of 2022. And it's going to be a roadmap for developers, builders, and jurisdictions to understand options and how deed restrictions work. The governing document for how PAHA will serve as the program manager for these deed restrictions will also be developed, and builders can focus on building housing units and not this part of the projects. With the goal of home ownership, PAHA is working with IHFA to offer training and support services that will help local workers access many of the other programs IHFA has to offer. So in summary, land trusts, deed restrictions, private-public partnerships are all that is needed, and PAHA is committed to moving those projects forward. And there are currently 2 builders and developers who are actively engaged in this effort. They have literally just those 2 have formed. Maggie and I were in a meeting just this last Wednesday with 2 more that are willing to come on board with percentages of deed restrictions. And I will tell you, I have 5 more land and housing projects that all have occupancy and deed restriction components to them. So this is a huge amount of work to move forward and kind of change the directory from where we're going to some options in that toolkit that we can all learn and utilize to execute in the county. So again, thank you to PAHA and their willingness to move this forward. And we'll be sharing some of the rest of the land owner conversations as these deed restrictions and these occupancy restrictions come forward. There's a lot of exciting projects. I think it's important in that we have been spreading the word about what needs to happen with our housing situation in Kootenai County, and that there's multiple options available. And I think it's so encouraging that most of our development community is starting to listen. They're willing to get involved. They're willing to sit down and talk about this. So with development agreements that we now have in place in all areas, and these fabulous organizations to move some of these programs forward, we really can make a difference. So with that, I will remind you that Maggie's complete document is going to be on the website, and I will transfer over to Victoria O'Banion. And Victoria has been, did a presentation she can talk about. I believe it was recorded and it's on our website. And she is works regionally with the resident-owned community programs. And that deals primarily with the manufactured home parks, turning them into ways that tenants can stay there and be involved in what happens in their future. So Victoria, a lot's been happening in that area. So if you want to please get us up to speed with the new groups that we've connected you with and some of the progress.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kiki. Yes, that my presentation about what is resident-owned communities, what does it look like for residents of manufactured housing communities to actually purchase their community, that is on the website. I recorded it. We had that presentation in February, and it is there. If you need a link, I'm sure that you can find it. If you can't, just reach out and we can get you connected. So like Kiki said, we have been doing a lot of meeting, and we have organized a coalition, a small group of residents and other active community members. We are now meeting weekly, every Friday morning, and anyone is welcome to join us in that conversation. But we are really focusing on 4 key areas during our weekly meetings. The first one is the immediate need for Oakcrest residents. Oakcrest residents need rental support and other supportive services. So we're working on creating a resource fair for Oakcrest residents and for all residents in manufactured housing communities in the region. So we're working on that. If you would like to be a vendor or share information about the services that you have for these residents, please reach out to me and we will we'll be in touch. I do not have a date yet. We are just in the infancy stages of this and gathering information, but I do hope to have that done and have that resource fair in November is when my hope is to have that. The second thing that we are also working on is a short-term goal and of really awareness of this program and of this option for park owners. We want park owners to know that if they do choose to sell their communities, that this is an option, that their residents are a viable buyer, and that we, my team, will come in with financial resources and the support to help these residents purchase their community. So again, if you know of park owners that are interested in the program and want more information about the program, you can reach out to myself and I'm happy to have those conversations. And I can have them in person or on the phone or however works best for you and that potential seller. The third thing that we are working on is legislative and legal action. This is more of a long-term focus and a long-term conversation. There's a lot of different elements to this objective. There's a lot of different ways that it can be approached. And we are working with some of our partners in South Idaho. There's a local affiliate in South Idaho that's an affiliate of ours that does have some connections in Boise. So we are working in partnership with them to see what kind of state legislation can be pushed forward. And then also working with cities and counties on local legislation as well that they can enact. And then the fourth thing that we are working on, it is a very long-term goal, but thinking about what is the future of the residents in Oakcrest and in other communities that have already been purchased by large investors that are seeing a rise in their rent and reduction of affordability. So we're working on what does that mean? What does that look like for those residents? What can those residents in those communities do right now to be prepared for a potential opportunity in the future? While that is nothing promised, it is more of a strategy to be ready should something be available and presented to those residents. There's a question about when are we meeting? We are meeting at 8 a.m. on Friday mornings. Right now we're working to secure the location. We've been meeting at a local restaurant, but last week our group expanded from like 4 people to 10 people. So we have quickly taken over the local restaurant. And so we need to find a more secure and quiet place where we can meet with this coalition. Have I missed anything, Kiki?
No, I was just going to say, I believe you have multiple different representatives from, I think, a Post Falls mobile home park, one in Hayden, and are already being in the process of contacting at least one mobile home park owner on this project. So there's been some pretty great movement going forward there. And Victoria, I really appreciate you taking on this whole entire project. It's a big one with a lot of people involved, and I'm forwarding more and more people all the time. So I'm sure that within this group, we can find you a good meeting place if you need some help. If anybody has any ideas where a group that I suspect is going to be up to 20 within the month, if anybody has some meeting space available that they might be able to use Friday mornings at 8 o'clock, and you could, somebody will send you an email.
Please do. I'll put my contact in the chat as well.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Kiki.
Appreciate that. And any questions on that, do forward to Victoria and she will help share with us. I didn't see Pam Hauser jump into this meeting yet, and I am not seeing a text from her. So I will let you know that Home Share Kootenai County, as most of you know, this is a program where we match up folks who need a place to live with people who may have extra space in their home, snowbirds, empty nesters, new singles, that kind of thing that have a daylight basement or an extra room. And we will go through a guided process from a national template that we use to match these folks up. that group has now got 3 new board members, and their next meeting is October 6th. We have a 2-year operating budget request that has been sent into the county, actually, and the Board of County Commissioners is considering that. As soon as we find out on that, it'll help us with our match grant funding conversation that they will be discussing at their next board meeting. And they've got 3 or 4 applications that they're probably already sending in. They're going as quickly as they can because the marketing program to launch to reach the snowbirds before they leave is ready, but needs the funding. And that's kind of where Home Share is right now. The last that I heard, we had an extensive list of people wanting places to live, but we had also started receiving a number of folks willing to open their homes up to these people. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern until we can get the final T's crossed and I's dotted with their new board in place that actually just was all, their bylaws were all approved last month. So that is a program that we think isn't going to be, we're projecting, I think, 60 matches within the first year. So if they can get that many done, they have really opened up a great housing inventory and option for us here in Kootenai County. So that's where Home Share is at. And I will let Pam be at this meeting next month and give us a much better update as to where they're at. But 7 solid board members. And I'll tell you, they're folks that when you see they're on the website, they have the experience, the wherewithal in housing, and that group's really going to get some things done. So appreciative of that. Lindsay Allen is with us today or not? I think I saw her. There you are. Hi, Lindsay. Can you give us an update on what the Regional Realtors Housing Task Force is up to?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kiki. We haven't really made progress in the last month and a half or so. We canceled a meeting in September to give everyone a break. But we have on our list, I met with Kiki recently and kind of explored some of the avenues that the regional realtors can absolutely participate in without infringing on private property rights, which has kind of been the roadblock that we've come up against in our kind of travels of trying to figure out what we can participate in or what we can champion. And the fundraising aspect of things definitely falls within our realm of participation or contribution. And so one thing we spoke about was really pushing for, end of year giving. We've got, 2,000 plus members. Each of our members obviously has a circle of influence that's pretty large as well. So we're just going to really try and focus on the educational aspect of, or the awareness aspect of this committee, the RHGIP, but the fundraising aspect, and funneling that money into probably PAHA, I believe, in terms of, earmarking it for people that need assistance with down payments, or people who need assistance with closing costs, or a second mortgage, or anything to bridge a gap. That's something we can absolutely participate in. And I think that's going to be our kind of first foray into actual, physical contribution to this cause. And we also had a meeting with CDA 2030 on the books for our September meeting before we canceled it, hoping they will be able to join us for our October meeting. Greta, I know you're on this call, but one thing I spoke to Kiki about was her idea of kind of how this group evolves and who kind of takes over this work. And so we're hoping to really kind of stay close with CDA 2030 and figure out how we can further the cause potentially beyond just the fundraising effort. But if that's one thing that we can participate in, I know there's a lot of boots on the ground and people in these committees doing a lot of, work with legislative stuff. We want to step into that arena as well. We've been told from our state level government affairs coordinator that we're going to need a bit more buy-in from communities before they can push it at the state level. But when that happens, we will be at the forefront of that lobbying effort from not just our local association, but from the state association. So that's kind of where we're at. Looking forward to our October meeting with CDA 2030 and spreading the word to our association and membership about the fundraising aspect to help some of these first responders, teachers, government workers, et cetera, make homeownership a reality.
Thanks, Lindsay. Appreciate that. And just for clarification, what we would be proposing when through this fundraising effort is using the Idaho Home Partnership Foundation through Deanna Ward's office, and earmarking that money back to individuals and or projects that PAHA and other groups could access. So we have a lot of details to work out, but we've had a couple presentations from Deanna, and she's willing to sit down with your group when you're ready. And then we will bring that back to this group for an update as to how that fundraising campaign can be executed. So Lindsay, appreciate your housing task force and all the work they're doing. And we will be talking with you next month. The next thing is public safety and healthcare worker. The first meeting for that is scheduled for October, and I believe it is the 28th. There are still a number of agencies that have yet to confirm back who their representative is. So that will be the first meeting on that. And the whole goal of that is to look at housing projects that others are doing throughout the state that are helping in providing housing for public safety and healthcare workers. We have one healthcare project that looks like it's getting a green light. We haven't gotten it all the way through yet, and that is in a cooperative project with Heritage Health, the Lake City Senior Center, and putting together some housing for some of their staff. But we do have a couple of other hospitals who have done this throughout the state that we're going to be talking about that. What can we do to help some programs for our hospital here and our public safety entities to be able to have them hire folks who can afford to move and live here. So I will be giving you a much more detailed report on what's happening, but that first meeting is scheduled for the last week of October. So the other updates here, I don't know if we have any updates, maybe Jack or Corey, if he's on for what's happening with the ARPA funds and the Idaho Workforce Housing Update. I think there was a lot of people who are interested in the deadlines and the status of what's happening with that state level picture.
Hi, Kiki. Yeah, Corey's on the road today, so I'm filling in for him. Nothing really to update on from probably the last time. The application round is first application round is due October 7th. So what, about a week or so. And then once we see what the application, the amount of applications that we get, we may go out for a second round, but we also have to make sure that we're hitting the rural areas, of course, because we have a 20% set aside for that. So yeah, first major deal is October 7th. So looking forward to seeing the applications for that.
Great. And will the applications be, will they be online? Will they, the people who are applying, I'm assuming they're all applying digitally, but will the actual application projects be listed anywhere or listed after they are awarded?
Yeah, after they're awarded, normally what we do is we just put out a sheet of name, project, where it's located, and amount of funds that are awarded to that project.
Okay, great. Thank you. We appreciate that. And we'll keep that updates in our reports. I will tell you the next couple of things that the Housing and Growth Issues Partnership is working on, besides potentially, as I said, this regional expansion and merger of our ongoing great work, is we've been planning since last summer a regional planning and zoning commissioners workshop. This was at the request of many of the P&Z folks when we did a presentation to them, as we did to many chambers and civic groups and councils on what the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership was. Many of them wanted to have more of an in-depth conversation about what these toolkit items are, how they can work on processing some of these as developers come forward with some of these in their plans. And so we scheduled for in November a regional workshop with all the planning and zoning commissioners. It's for the ability for them to engage in dialogue with legal, with this group, with each other, to ask housing questions about what solutions are currently being utilized, how they affect them and in the future. Hear presentations on some specific items that the planners who are in our work group have been working on, so that each one of them will kind of break it down and have those P&Z folks be able to get more of a detailed presentation on specific projects, and to learn more about what the Housing and Growth Issues Partnership's next phases are and where we're going, so that we can get some input from them. They'll be able to be told that we are doing a prioritization survey, so that we are definitely connecting with the community, and we can continue to be an interface for them with the development community and outreach to the citizens, to make sure that they can have a resource for factual information about what can and can't be done in the planning and zoning realm. And so that is scheduled in November, and it's going to be probably our biggest one of our biggest challenges, is to try to put all of that together, because it's a lot of information, a lot of different jurisdictions that each have unique situations to them. So we will be reporting back on how that information went. The last thing, that was the last thing I had on my agenda. I know that there have been many of you who have forwarded information, and I truly appreciate it. Len has been great in forwarding information on some economic forecast information, and I'm going to give that to Taryn so that we can put some links on our website as to what's going to be happening there. There's a number of regional housing summits happening, so we're going to try to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel out there, and giving all of our good information and factual resources to those folks. But at this time, I don't have anything further on our agenda. If any of the panelists have anything, or Hillary, if you notice that I've missed anything, if you jump in right now, I would certainly appreciate that.
You didn't miss anything on my list, Kiki. You covered everything.
Great. Any questions from any of our advisory group members or panelists? I could take those now, if you want to just put anything in the chat box. I'll give you a minute to think about that. So at our next monthly meeting, there will be a couple of presentations that we have been lining up. So it may be a little bit longer, and we're going to send some email information out about that. And we're going to keep you informed as to all of the rest of the great work in housing and growth. If there's nothing else.
Hey, Kiki.
Hi, Greta.
So, hi. So I, first of all, want to thank you and Hillary and the rest of you for all the work that you guys have done for trying to and putting into place all of the things that you guys can do to help people afford homes. I'm not sure how many of you know, but I was a teacher, and if I continue to teach, there's no way for teachers who would come in at the position that I was in to be able to afford to buy anything. There's just no way, especially, I mean, I'm a single mom and all that other good stuff. So it's really, really imperative that we do this great work that's already been started. And I'm so excited about everything that's been going on. I can't even tell you. So, and I'm new to 2030, so I'm trying to wrap my head around everything, but I've had lots of great meetings and I'm learning a ton. And so if any of you want to reach out to me, please do. My email is simple. It's Greta, and I'll put it in the chat, greta@cda2030.org. And then, and invite you to help guide me as far as what you guys have already done. And it's just to get me up to speed. Kiki has been phenomenal, and I'm really grateful for all of her time. So thanks, Kiki. But I think that's it. I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself to those of you that I haven't met yet.
Thanks, Greta. We'll look forward to this, getting more and more folks together in the community and keeping this very, very important topic alive and thriving. So we'll do that. If there's nothing else, then I will conclude the September 26th meeting, and I will ask Taryn to stay on. I'll grab you for a quick second after the recording has ended, and we will get some updates made to the website, and you should all be able to go there and read that weekly update. All right, thank you. Have a good rest of your day, folks.